After conquering the mighty Persian Empire, Alexander the Great stood at the edge of the known world India. 4 years, his armies had crossed deserts, mountains, and rivers, defeating every enemy that dared to stand in their way. But in this distant, exotic land, they would face something they had never seen before, something that seemed almost mythical. The enemy awaiting Alexander was King Porus, a powerful ruler of the Indian subcontinent. Porus commanded a massive army unlike any Alexander had ever encountered. Tens of thousands of warriors, cavalrymen, archers, and at the center of it all, his ultimate weapon, the war elephants. Towering over men and horses alike, these elephants were living fortresses. Covered in armor, with tusks tipped in iron, they carried archers and spear fighters on their backs. Their presence alone could terrify even the bravest soldier. For the Macedonians, it was as if the earth itself was preparing to crush them. When the battle began, the ground shook. The elephants advanced in a thunderous march, their trumpets echoing across the valley. The air filled with dust and fear. Horses panicked, soldiers hesitated, some for the first time in their lives. The mighty army that had conquered Persia now faced a force that seemed unstoppable. Alexander rode along his lines, his bronze armor gleaming in the sun. He could see the terror in his men's eyes, the disbelief. And yet, his voice was calm, unyielding, filled with command. "Hold your ground," he shouted. "They bleed as we do." But Alexander was not one to rely on courage alone. He observed the battlefield carefully, the movement of the elephants, the signals of their riders, the patterns of their charge. And then his genius revealed itself. He understood that the elephants were powerful but not invincible. Their greatest strength, their size and fury, could also be their downfall. Alexander realized that without their handlers, the beasts would lose direction, panic, and turn against their own army. He ordered his archers and javeliners not to aim at the elephants, but at the mahouts, the men guiding them. In an instant, a storm of arrows filled the sky. The riders fell one after another, and without their guidance, the elephants began to rage uncontrollably. They trampled soldiers on both sides, crushing armor, overturning chariots, creating chaos everywhere they moved. Then, when the enemy formation began to break, Alexander gave his next command. He unleashed his cavalry, fast, disciplined, and deadly. They rode around the elephants, attacking from every direction, slicing through confusion, isolating the beasts, and striking the Indian lines with precision. What had begun as a nightmare turned into a masterpiece of strategy. In a matter of hours, the elephants that had seemed unstoppable became symbols of defeat. The Battle of the Hydaspes, as it would be remembered, was not just a victory of one army over another. It was a triumph of intellect over brute strength, of strategy over chaos, of vision over fear. After the battle, Alexander personally met King Porus. Impressed by the king's courage and dignity, Alexander asked him how he wished to be treated. Porus replied proudly, "Like a king." And Alexander, admiring his spirit, answered, "You shall have your wish." In that moment, conqueror and conquered found mutual respect. Two leaders who understood honor and greatness even in defeat. The victory at Hydaspes showed the world that Alexander was not merely a warrior, but a visionary. He was a leader who could see patterns where others saw confusion, opportunities where others saw disaster. But it was also a turning point. His men, exhausted by years of conquest and endless marches, began to question how far they could go. They had reached the edge of the known world, and beyond lay lands no one in Greece had ever imagined. Though Alexander longed to push further east, to conquer all the way to the ends of the earth, his army refused. The Battle of the Hydaspes became both a triumph and a limit, the last great victory before his men turned back. Still, the legend of that day, when Alexander faced the war elephants and prevailed, echoed through centuries. It proved that the greatest victories are not won by sheer power, but by intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Alexander the Great had shown the world that no obstacle, no matter how terrifying, could stand against a mind determined to overcome it. His strategies would be studied by generals for millennia. And his name, Alexander, would forever be synonymous with genius, ambition, and destiny. He was not merely a conqueror of lands, but a conqueror of the impossible. And on the plains of India, against the roaring might of living mountains, he once again proved why he was called great. If you love history and want to keep uncovering epic battles, conquests, and strategies that shaped the world, subscribe now, and join the next journey through time.